To foil a terrorist plot, an FBI agent undergoes facial transplant surgery to assume the identity of the criminal mastermind who murdered his only son. But the criminal wakes up prematurely and seeks revenge. Face Off is up next on Inside Movies. Hey guys, welcome to Inside Movies. My name is George Michail. I'm a comic book maker, and I am joined by novelist Andrew Buckley, who's hiding his face, writer, illustrator GMB CHOMICHUK. Oh.
I got my face moved.
Of Merc Publishing, Murphey.
Hi.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me for this crazy episode. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the good. What do we like about Face Off?
There's so much.
There's so much poetry.
The opening scene with Nick Cage as a priest just being freaking wild. I saw that. I think I walked in on my parents watching the movie, and then they were like, you need to get out of here. But that scene has always just been burned into my brain. It's so wonderful.
This movie comes after my love affair with the John Woo movies. I found all these bootleg VHSs of Hard Boiled and Killer and all this other stuff. So I had watched all those, and then I was like, oh my God, everyone else knows about John Woo too. Pure John Woo poetry in this film. It is bananas, this movie, as a premise. It makes no sense whatsoever. Down to the magnet boots, it makes no sense. But man, they make it look good.
Well, it looks good. It looks like a John Woo movie. And I had the same thing. I watched bootlegs of all of his old movies when I was a teenager, and then when he became North Americanized and did Hard Target and then Face Off, I was like, oh man, it's amazing. But at a rewatch, this falls into the category of Inside Movies reviews where I loved it as a younger person, and as a now person, I'm like, oh shit, this is terrible.
Oh, terrible! No,
terrible.
Come on.
My bad list is long.
My bad list is very short. To Murphy's point about the priest scene, I was listening to John Travolta talk about watching Nick Cage perform that scene, trying to get notes for what's his name, Castor Troy is going to be like, and he's like, oh, we're doing that type of acting, and it's just over the top, balls to the wall, just insane, over the top, and it's so much fun.
Well, to their credit, I mean, one thing that is on my good list is that this is Travolta and Cage having the absolute time of their lives for 2 hours and just acting batshit crazy, just trying to out Travolta and Cage each other at every single turn, which is just phenomenal to watch.
The action scenes are just so awesome. We got gun fu, before John Wick, there was Face Off, with all the doves and stuff, and the speedboat chase at the end. I don't know how they did it, but it is super dangerous, and it is amazing to watch.
Yeah. Can we also just take a moment and recognize that a movie about people swapping faces and body musculature and staying in a prison with magnet boots and all this kind of stuff is also punctuated by these great character moments that don't seem to belong in these films, where they pause long enough to try to build pathos. And man, what a film.
I think one of those is the scene where Travolta, when he, his daughter is, getting attacked, and he brings her inside and teaches, shows her, gives her the knife and says, stick it in and twist it. And it's this weird, I liked it. It was this weird moment of him actually caring about his would-be daughter, or maybe he's just trying to incite violence. But I think that it kind of leaves a question there. And then, of course, for that to lead to her to actually use it in the end on him is fantastic. But I really liked that scene. It gave him some depth I wasn't expecting.
Absolutely.
And, that's super bizarre, because Castor Troy as John Travolta is kind of a better husband. He's more attentive and not so hung up on everything else in his life, which granted it's the death of his child, but still he's there for his lady. And and he's a protective kind of would-be father, but he's also like a super creep and like dangerous killer maniac guy. But he's layered, and yeah, he's like an onion.
Well,
I don't know.
he's projecting, right? I mean, his whole thing is that he's become this other person, so he's doing what he perceives to be what would be a good husband and father. But it's also punctuated with his batshit craziness, so it kind of shines through occasionally. But it's pretty great.
I don't know if it's good or bad because it's really on the nose. But there's that scene where the two of them, they're having their big gun battle, classic John Woo, 2-gun shooting, two characters facing each other and just round after round. But then they're back to back on the mirror.
The mirror, yes.
And they turn around and face each other through the mirror, and they see the person they hate the most in the mirror, which is them, the face they're wearing. And that's actually like that's taking some pretty outlandish material and just being like as serious a filmmaker as you can be with something that is like absolutely ridiculous.
Look, imagine how psychologically damaging that whole thing would be. You're taking your worst enemy's face and putting it on your own, and you have to live as them for X amount of time. Like, that would mess you up in such terrible ways. And the original ending of the movie that they end up cutting was kind of spoke to that, but then they just didn't bother doing it because they thought they wanted to be a happy ending and not a really disturbing ending.
I think that was a good choice. The movie was so bonkers and all over the place, and even though it was very campy and silly, like, I think it needed the happy ending. I think that if that had ended on a like a real dark note, people would have walked out just kind of like confused on having such kind of like a fun, wild ride, and then for it to just like it needed to end happy. It needed to.
I'm going to argue that the ending was not happy, but we can leave it for the bad section.
Well, yeah.
Fair enough. It's a fairy tale. This is a 90s action fairy tale movie.
What?
Where so many elements of it, right down to the big mirror scene, that just feels like a fairy tale. The little kids, the kid getting sent to the good family at the end, like all that stuff is just such a fairy tale trope.
I guess.
Yeah, no, you can guess, but you don't have to guess. I'm telling you.
Fairy tale in the realm of an action movie. I got it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this movie is crazy, and I like these type of movies where it's just you can't really say it's good because it's just like so stupid and silly, but it is good because it is so fun and the action scenes are insane and just and the acting is just it is entertaining. And like more than good, it's entertaining. Like I like it a lot, and it's hard to justify. But
it's a specific brand of good. It's Nicolas Cage good, which is he is his own genre. And to put him and John Travolta together was genius, and I loved it. I'm not going to say this is a good movie because if you look at it from like a real like a film connoisseur perspective, like it's got problems, but it's a great Nicolas Cage movie. And that's all I want.
I think it should gain some points. It should have some points in the grand sort of sphere of cinema as a really ambitious commercial experiment. To take 2 stars, swap the kind of roles they normally play, and have them swap again within their own film, and try to get people to the box office and sprinkle in a foreign director who has amazing film powers when it comes to action films. It gets points for trying something ambitious, I think.
Do you care to guess who the original duo was that was cast before John Woo came on board?
Tom Hanks and Jim Carrey.
No, it was Schwarzenegger and Stallone.
Shut up, of course.
Yeah, and then when John Woo came on board, he didn't like it. So they recast.
I think that was the right
one. Imagine Stallone doing Schwarzenegger?
Well, I mean, how did you get around I suppose the accent?
They would have to like dub the voices.
Oh my god!
Did they dub the voices? No.
They did. It was a voice modulator. They changed it. That was how they explained it away. Because then they had like something in the throat. That's why they couldn't get punched in the throat. Or when they did, it broke.
They do that one CGI like sequence where it shows them like changing their body shape too, and like all that stuff. It doesn't make any sense, but neither do magnet boots in the prison. So whatever.
I mean, that could make sense. Like it could happen.
I'm down for magnet boots.
Yeah.
You're really
Well,
hating
or
on
you
these
could, like,
magnet
climb the
boots.
ceiling
That's like the
or something.
least impossible part of
Well,
this.
the magnet boots are, again, the fairy tale reference. It's the, it's the slipper. It's the glass slipper analogy here. We've got the Prince and the Pauper. We got the glass slipper. We've got the Snow White stuff. We've got the mirror on the wall. It's all in there, guys. I'm telling you.
The magnet boots were from Super Mario Brothers, the movie. It's what the Goombas wore and what he wore, like the rocket boots he wore.
Like
Those
the
were
actual props?
The actual props. They just
Oh,
took
wow.
it from the Super Mario movie and put it in that.
No one will remember they were in Super Mario, they said to themselves.
So this movie is batshit crazy. And another thing that's batshit crazy is my series, Resilient, a comic book that's available on Kickstarter right now. After losing her arms, a young judo teacher gained cybernetic prosthetics. She must use her fists and her kung fu skills to right the wrongs of her husband's sordid past. In this Kickstarter, we're teamed up with White Widow #7, so you can pick up both series or just my book, Resilient. You can get Resilient issues 1 and 2 on the current Kickstarter. Link in the description of this video. All right, let's get into the bad. What do we not like about Face Off?
Upon reflection, so much. Just so much. And I had no idea I didn't like this movie as much as I didn't like it. It's really sad. It opens with the murder of a child, and equally as bad as Nicolas Cage's porn mustache at the beginning as well. I didn't like either of those things.
Don't they bring out your real connection to the twisting and turning emotional depth of this film, though?
Really? Was it twisting and emotional depth to this particular film?
No, there wasn't. But I was trying to help out the filmmaker.
It was good. It was a good attempt.
John Woo has done so much for me that I want. Oh,
I can suspend disbelief. No problem. As an action movie, this thing was super fun, but it's got some the scientific. As a kid, as a teenager, I was like, it's great. They swap faces, it's awesome. And 20 years later, I'm like, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. It makes no sense whatsoever. It makes even less sense that Joan Allen didn't know that it wasn't her husband. They changed their body shape. Did they change their penises? Because I'm sure she would recognize it at some degree. That doesn't make sense to me. That she shouldn't.
I mean, unless it comes down to it being cut and uncut, most of them look pretty similar.
Oh, we should really
get into
a lot of
it.
fun looking at yours, but...
and Cage's dick side by side would be. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference?
Are there any movies we can pull this up and actually examine this? Because I feel we should dive deeper into this.
I will say, you mentioned the suspension of disbelief. This movie 100% rides on that. If you walk in trying to take this at all seriously, you're not going to have a good time. It's not that's why I think that the GMs, if it being a fairy tale is a good way to look at it, because it's the only way that you can just soak in the convoluted plot points that they're feeding you.
One thing that was really grating for me was they're constantly trying to convince other people that they are who they look like. It's you look exactly like that other person. No one is questioning this. You don't have to pretend. You can just go into them and be like, hey, where did we say we were putting that bomb? And just okay, mission accomplished. It just didn't make any sense. And John, Nick Cage, Sean Archer or whatever, undercover. You don't have to go undercover. You look like Nick Cage. You're good. It was just silly.
There was not a lot of addressing the magical MacGuffin of the face swapping as available technology, because if they're criminal masterminds, are they aware of it? And if so, is that why they're acting like they really have to convince them but no one brought it up? There was some of that. I agree with you, Andrew, that didn't make a lot of sense, that many things in this movie didn't make sense, but Murphy is right. If we just let it wash over us, we can just appreciate it.
Okay, let's.
If we don't look too closely at either penis, they look the same in the dark.
Okay. Let's accept that is all well and good, and you can suspend disbelief. That fucking face tickle bullshit, it was so cringy, especially after the 7th or 8th time that they did it. Oh my god, please don't. He's just gonna keep doing it.
Because this is putting their face on. You see,
it's washing over
his face off. But this
if you weren't so many provinces away, I would come over and slap you.
The stunt doubles, you can tell that they're clearly not our lead actors. I know I've harped on this before, but it's pretty bad in this one, especially on the boat scenes. I don't know. I think in like nowadays movies, they like will just CGI the actor's face onto the stunt double and it like looks seamless. But back in the 90s, they didn't have that tech really. Well, they did it in Jurassic Park, but they should have done it in this one because you can see clearly that they're not flying out of that boat at 100 miles an hour.
The ending is my biggest pet peeve with this movie. Archer doesn't return home after having his face put back on at the end. Like, it's not the first place he goes, because you have that scene with Joan Allen in the kitchen and she sees him start to walk, and that's great. But he literally got, fixed. And then he went to adopt a child without asking his wife first, and just brings child home. And what is Joan Allen supposed to say? No, take, the child of your dead mortal enemy back to the orphanage. And from the kid's point of view, he saw John Travolta kill everybody that he's ever known in an action sequence. But then this same guy shows up and adopts him and takes him home to his family. Like, that's fucking weird.
So never really thought of that. But that's a great setup for another fairy tale, you see?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Right? When that kid gets his revenge.
on his entire family that he now lives with.
That's right.
All right, let's get into the skinny. What are our final grades for Face Off?
I will give this movie 3 Nicolas Cages and 2 John Travoltas out of 5. Because it is slightly more Nicolas Cage than John Travolta.
I will give this movie 82 Christian choir singers with squeezable butts out of 100. I liked it.
That's
still.
awesome.
I'm going to go pretty high on this one. It's super entertaining. As stupid as it is, you can't turn away from it. I'm going to go B+. I'm here for the action. This movie delivers incredible stunts, ton of energy, charismatic performances by the lead actors. Yeah, it's a good one to me. B+.
It doesn't hold up like it used to for me. I give it 3.5 slow motion flying doves out of 5.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Inside Movies. I've been George Michail, joined by GMB CHOMICHUK, Murphey, and Andrew Buckley. Go check out Cover of Darkness. There's a link in the description of this video, and our Facebooks, our Instagram, our Twitters. Follow us along on all our different creative adventures. Until next time, peace.